For the first time in a couple of seasons, we return to the USGP at the Circuit of the Americas after some big requests from you guys pre-season to bring this circuit back on the calendar, and this will be the penultimate round of this season. Kind of crazy that we're here at the second last race of the season, and well, getting back to this game, this is what happens when you've been away for some time and it's been 20 whole days since you last booted up F124. I don't know how on earth I've kept it out the walls there, but we have, and we can continue on, but not the best way to start our first out lap and flying lap in this qualifying session. Yes, as you guys may have seen with a recent video, I was actually out in Australia for the first race of the IRL 2025 F1 season, and so the episodes, the last 4 or 5 episodes you've been seeing, I pre-recorded way ahead of time, you know, so the last time I did play this career mode was in fact 20 days ago, and it's showing. There's a lot of rust on my driving, and it's maybe not come at the best point of the season. Of course, if you remember, obviously you would have remembered because you've been following along with these episodes, but I'm having to re-jog my memory of where we were in this season. Hamilton with a massive advantage in the championship in his all-conquering Toyota in this season, and we ended last episode with a win, but saying we really needed miracles to happen in these last 2 episodes, these last 2 races of this season, to have any sort of chance of challenging Hamilton for that Drivers' Championship. I feel like the Constructors is definitely out the window, you know, because despite the engine failures from Tsunoda recently in Baku, in Singapore, they've still been scoring very well. Of course, Hamilton's been performing very, very consistently, and on our side, we've had a little bit of a rough time. We've brought it back a little bit in recent races, I suppose, but Verstappen's not really been there, and it's still been very tough to bridge that advantage Toyota have had, despite races where we've lucked out on strategy like last episode in Singapore. You know, it doesn't matter because Hamilton's been there, second place, limited the damage, and coming back to this game after 20 days is not going to help things in terms of my ultimate speed, at least at this very start of the episode in the sprint qualifying. Having said that though, despite having a lot of rust and F124 honestly feeling like the most alien game ever, coming back to it, we didn't do too bad, all things considered. We still out-qualified Verstappen, which just shows how awful he's been in this second half of the season. It's honestly baffling how an AI so high rated as him can be so awful, but you know, it kind of echoes the sentiment a lot of you guys have been saying in the comments, that this just seems to be the thing on F124 more so than other F1 games as well. As soon as you become someone's teammate, they may have been amazing when you were going up against them in a different team, but as soon as you're in the same team as them, they just seem to drop off the cliff. As Tsunoda there seems to want a bit of revenge for the recent engine failures. He's trying to push on as much as he can. He's on sprint pole. Let's see if his Toyota is going to actually, you know, pull through for him over the course of the race weekend. But going into the race weekend, this is the context then of the championship. We are in second place owing to Tsunoda's engine failures. He definitely probably would have been up there if it wasn't for those 2 engine failures in Baku and Singapore. So we kind of lucked into this position, but it's a position where we're still so far away from Hamilton, so I don't feel like we're engaged in a title fight. It's kind of odd to say that. We're obviously going to try and maximize our positions, but honestly, it's Hamilton's to lose in a way, it feels like, there with 220 points to my 206. But we've had a good run of form from Baku to Singapore, 3rd and 1st, but Hamilton equally has had actually a better run, 1st and 2nd place with 2 fastest laps of the Grand Prix. So Lewis has really put himself in a good stead in these last 2 races. But there's a lot of points on offer. USA and Brazil are sprint episodes, so there are a couple of more points paying opportunities in this one and the next one, so we're just going to try and go out there and maximize everything. But it's a front row lockout for this sprint for Toyota, so we need to hope we get a good start and there's maybe a bit more pace to come. You know, as the laps go, I probably will be getting quicker and quicker and more comfortable with the game again, just because the more laps I do, I'll kind of, you know, find my form again, basically from where we were last episode. For you guys would have been just a couple of days ago. For me, literally like 3 weeks ago. But no excuses here, we're just going to get straight straight into it then and see where we end up as we go to 5 red lights. And the sprint here in the USGP is underway. It's an awful start for Hamilton from the front row. It's an insane start for Zhou Guanyu of all people in the Audi as we make a dive down the inside of 1, 2, 3 cars. We've got both Haas Cadillacs and the Ferrari of Leclerc. But look at that, Zhou Guanyu in the Audi, the back marker Audi in second place. I didn't even notice, to be fair. He qualified ahead of us. He qualified amazingly, Zhou Guanyu did, and now he's using it to good fruition. He's up to second. Tsunoda off the sprint pole, leading the way. 1.5 seconds now the gap is to Zhou Guanyu, because although he's done amazingly, as I said, that Audi's a back marker, has been ever since they became Audi, or the entire game really, when they were kick sound before at the start of the series. So that's going to help Tsunoda get a lot of breathing room, and that's going to help us close up to Hamilton. Zhou Guanyu is my new best friend, it seems, in this season, as he's held up Hamilton. An absolute treat. Can we try and follow him through on the inside? Just go nose to tail, pretty almost trying to just follow the leader through the apex, trying to get the overtake now on 1, 2 cars there. Once again, absolutely flying on this opening lap. So there may have been some cobwebs to dust off in qualifying, but certainly we've not forgotten how to do a good start here in the sprint, at least with lower fuel levels, and we're up into second place. So that's an amazing lap 1 in this sprint. Unfortunately for Zhou Guanyu, he had a really good opening lap. He qualified really well, but eventually, even in the sprint, the race pace, the true race pace of the Audi is going to show through, and he's down to P6. Both Haas's ahead now by lap 3. Piastri nipping ahead. Hulkenberg already got the position up into P4, as I'm now trying to just hopefully see the back of Hamilton, seeing if we can do anything about trying to catch Tsunoda. But Tsunoda seems the most determined man ever to put the wrongs right, to put the engine failures behind him, and prove that if it weren't for them, he probably would be maybe, you know, fighting for the championship, maybe even leading the championship versus Hamilton. I don't know what the maths would have been in terms of the permutations, but meanwhile, Hamilton continues to maybe go backwards here, as Hulkenberg does us a favour on the outside to the inside for the next right-hander, may just overtake our fellow compatriot in the Toyota. He is going to. Hamilton puts up a real good fight, though, the two of them neck and neck through this entire twisting sector 3, but Hulkenberg is up into third place for this sprint. Hamilton looks to be struggling somewhat. Tsunoda in the opposite end of the spectrum, 7 seconds the gap is, 8.9 seconds the gap by the second last lap. I am now starting to struggle on these medium tyres. The tyre wear is just about starting to kick in, and the rear end is floating about, and that means Hulkenberg has caught up to me now. This is probably also due to just a lack of practice in the car, and so Hulkenberg is putting the pressure. Tsunoda's walked away with this. He's nearly going to be 12 seconds probably by the end of the race, leading this one on the last lap as Hulkenberg overtakes us momentarily. We're going to try our best to repass him. It gets very, very close on the left-hand side, a bit too close for comfort in a way, as we get the elbows out to repass Hulkenberg to maximise this, but he's so determined to maintain second. It's a real good scrap in Sector 3, but unlike Hamilton, we are going to manage to pull that back for second place. Hamilton will remain in fourth place. I was hoping Piastri could have overtaken him, but instead he'll finish in a sandwich of the Haas Cadillacs, but that's good for us. That's good. It's not amazing, you know, the ideal thing would have been winning the sprint, but we'll take second place. Hamilton 2 positions back, so it's not a huge amount of points on Lewis, but it's something. It's something in the sprint, and that's all we can ask for. Obviously, the big points are to come in the full Grand Prix, but as sprints go, to gain like a couple of points, it's not bad. You know, could have been a lot worse. Could have just been 1 single point. At least it's 2 points gained on him with 7 points to his 5. But Tsunoda, very much like Lewis Hamilton in the IRL sprint at China this morning, Tsunoda just walking away with things in P1, unimpeded by traffic and, you know, battling and whatever. So that's going to be a bit concerning for Hamilton in terms of his lack of race pace there, although it just could be a case of he just got caught up in the fighting, and if he could, you know, get that gap and break DRS like Tsunoda, he'd be walking away with it. Obviously, that's a great thing for us that he struggled in that traffic. So Now, as we go into the full qualifying, I'm hoping that we can be near or ahead of Hamilton on the grid, because now we know if we can get ahead of Lewis, if we can get him in traffic, maybe that Toyota car is not, completely bulletproof in the dirty air, in the traffic around Kota, and there's half a chance there. But we know once they're in clean air, like Tsunoda showed, whew, they're going to be going absolutely away. As Russell gets a little bit in front of us in this first opening lap, and more so Sergio Perez with a double lockup into the blinding sunshine at the final corner, and so got impeded ever so slightly there. Third place behind Tsunoda and Ocon on the first flying laps. Of course, now with a full qualifying, we've got a little bit longer to go in this session compared to the sprint quali, and so we will have time to go again on a new set of tyres, whereas of course sprint quali, you stay on the same set and you just go around again. You do a quick lap, slow lap, quick lap again, whereas this one is bolting on a whole new set of tyres, lowest fuel we can do, and we set a purple in the first sector, green second. We're up by about 5/10 to maybe 6. We're hoping we're down to P6, so we do need this lap. I think Hamilton and Tsunoda are both up there as we go towards that blinding corner for the second time in anger. Little bit of a squirrel on the rear end, and it's going to be about 5.5 gain, but that is going to be enough to catapult us up to the first row alongside our championship rival. I mean, that's a bit of a, vague definition. The man we're trying to somewhat catch in the championship, who still has a very comfortable cushion, but he's on pole. So Lewis has responded to that, disappointing sprint. Tsunoda's done well, but not quite as good as he did in the sprint quali, but we're sandwiched between two Toyotas. That's it's going to be a tricky one. You just know it off the 5 red lights in that first phase. And from what I remember, Kota, it's always been a very, very difficult one on the F1 game, and in real life for Tyre, where, very high abrasion, but on the game especially, the AI is so amazing around here, so it's going to be a tough one to call. The two Williams looking much quicker in this sprint, and then what on earth happened to Verstappen here? P16, I've had enough of this. It's just clear, that he's just not performing whatsoever, and it's just ridiculous now at this point. P16, 1.1 seconds. This guy is 95 rated, isn't he, or something like that? It's just crazy. It is just crazy, the drop-off he's had as an AI teammate. It needs to be studied in a way, but alas. Anyway, we focus on ourselves and our fight with Lewis on the front row. Let's go to the grid.
Well, you don't need me to remind you that Formula One is now so beloved in the United States that we race here 3 times a year. But let's give respect to Kota, or the Circuit of the Americas, to give it its full name. This place laid the foundations for this moment and still remains the host of the US Grand Prix.
It seems like most of us are starting on the medium compound, apart from one rogue choice of Esteban Ocon on the hard compound of all tyres. In terms of strategy, there is a potential 2-stop there. I feel like based off what we've been doing all season in this Red Bull, if we can hack it, obviously the tyre wear was really bad at the end of the sprint. If we can manage that though and get through it, I think the 1-stop will be the better way for us to go. Theoretically, it's the better way to go for everyone, but the tyre wear has been very high with this season's Michelins, and especially for teams like Toyota, they've been really struggling with that, and that's been to our advantage. But we're on the front row alongside the man we're trying to chase down. It seems like an impossible task, but we'll give it our best, and we're in the best position now to overtake him on the opening lap as we go to 5 red lights, and the US GP is underway. A lot of wheel spin for Lewis and myself. We seem to be in an age in the opening gears as we go from left to right on the outside. Lewis with the defensive line. We've managed to go round the outside, but now side by side, can we keep our footing into the S section? Nearly banging tyres. Lewis backs out of it as there's a virtual safety car, and Hamilton a lot less aggressive than I thought he would have been, considering track position would have been everything at the start of this race in terms of the tyre wear levels and also just managing the race from the front. The virtual safety car calms things down then, and just, after that high pressure moment kind of lets you relax a little bit and think about what we're doing. So we're into first, that's good. A bit surprisingly, I thought Lewis was going to put up more of a fight, like I said, but now it's a case of defending Lewis and trying, if we can, to break DRS and learning from what Tsunoda did in the sprint. If we can try and break that, we can hopefully maybe walk away with it if he's busy fighting on the cars. But right now, he's busy fighting us as we go defensive. We're going to, on purpose, try and take him wide, and that's going to invite Piastri in. My plan has worked perfectly. Piastri into second, but also that's probably large in part to the fact he's on the soft compound. So Piastri, he's overtaken Lewis, but he's actually going to go and overtake me straight away as we're deploying most of our battery to try and combat the Haas Cadillac. We've seen plenty of times the Haas car has been great in a straight line this season, and Piastri uses that added in with a soft compound to get the exit. He's up into first place. We will try and come back at him, but it's going to be tough. You know, he's got that overall better grip on the soft compound at this early stage of the race, as we see behind Tsunoda overtaking Hamilton. So despite obviously Tsunoda being completely out of the championship fight, you would say, no team orders then at Toyota, and Hamilton's down one more position, down to P4, and he doesn't seem comfortable, does he? Perez on the back of him, and Tsunoda, he's flying. He's already walked away from Hamilton and is trying to now catch up to myself and Piastri as we try and go for the repass to finally get back up into first place. We couldn't manage it before, and Hamilton goes down one further position. What is going on in this race? This is an implosion for Hamilton, the championship leader in the Toyota. Has he got a car issue? Is there an engine failure on the way? Because typically when you see an AI this slow compared to their teammate, it means they've got a car issue on the way and there's an engine failure inbound, because Perez gets him. He's down to P5. What is going on right now? Or is it maybe just finally it's Lewis's turn? Because of course that Toyota's not been reliable in the last two episodes. Tsunoda's had 2 engine failures, so maybe this is Hamilton's turn. Maybe he was probably laughing watching Tsunoda have the engine failures and taking an easy lead in the championship, and now he's just falling away. Oh no, he's not only been overtaken by Ocon, he's now lost an end plate. Esteban Ocon, shock horror, has broken his end plate, and so Hamilton now is limping around there with maybe a car with an issue and now front wing damage. This is massive, massive stuff for us. Maybe even Tsunoda, who knows if he's going to be really quick today and going for that win eventually. Because speaking of Tsunoda, here he is. We go defensive. He's gaining. Oh my God, what? Tsunoda, what have you done, man? We've got damage. We've got damage on the diffuser. Tsunoda has just plain blank driven into the back of us. What was that? What was that? I thought we kept it pretty respectful in our time as teammates last season when I was at Toyota, and it seems like that's all out the window now, apparently, as we watch a replay. And what is going on there? Tsunoda, he kind of just stopped braking, just went for a bit of a jolt of throttle mid-brake zone and just drove into us and just twatted us a bit off, and we did well to hold it, not spin or anything like that, but we've now got damage which our engineer is telling us about, and visually you can see it occurring then. So now every entry and exit of these slower corners, the rear end stability is not going to be quite there because the diffuser is slightly damaged, and that obviously is a massive part of the rear downforce. And this is also in the context of, at the very start of the episode, you saw, having been away from the game for a while, my right foot is not exactly acclimated to the game anymore as much as it used to. So that's going to be a double problem for us that we're having to try and now manage in the cockpit, and manage it we will, because we're coming back at Tsunoda very aggressive on the squeeze because, well, just trying to repay the favor of letting him know how annoying that was in terms of that damage for us. So being over aggressive maybe a little bit to just try and drill the point home as we overtake him for first place. Piastri, by the way, you saw pit off those soft tyres, so an early pit stop for Piastri. I imagine, unless he went onto the hards, he's probably on a 2-stop, the Haas's, so the home team going for the aggressive, committed 2-stop, whereas at this stage, I'm not too sure if myself and Tsunoda are doing a 1 or a 2. I don't know what Lewis is definitely doing a 2, because he's come in. I missed when it happened. I think it was on the same lap as when Tsunoda hit us into this turn 1, so Hamilton down in P18, whilst his teammate is giving us a good scrap for P1. It's the wrong Toyota fighting us for the lead of this race early on. We're going to be side by side going to the S section, and Tsunoda committed. Oh no! Oh, committed as ever, and it's to his detriment. Tsunoda, he's out. The safety car's out, and we've got a front left puncher. What on earth? Oh my god! This race weekend has gone from a pretty pedestrian one in the sprint to an absolutely chaotic one. Hamilton with damage, and now we've got 3 wheels on our wagon because the front left is completely obliterated. It's delaminating, and there's a smoke screen we're creating for the entire rest of this grid. We're down to P7. Thank God there's a safety car at least, so we can get a free pit stop under it, but we are going to go down the order because everyone else is, able to overtake us in this situation, I think, because we're just so slow, basically. There's no way for the FIA to tell everyone to not overtake us because we've got a puncher, so of course we're going to get overtaken. So we're in now. P12. Everyone, though, has got the same idea for a free pit stop, so, oh, no. I think that's Mercedes ahead of us. They're coming in, and so they blocked Verstappen. So it's a slower pit stop for us. We've spent more time in the pits than we should have done because the Mercs blocked Verstappen as he made the double stack. And ironically, we've come out inside of Lewis Hamilton there as he's in now for his second stop of the afternoon. Obviously, you may as well take a free pit stop under the safety car, even though he'd already come in at this point. But this is crazy. So, hang on a minute. We've all of a sudden gone from an amazing position, an open goal, to gain a whole 25 points on Lewis Hamilton, who was down the order. All of a sudden now, myself and Lewis are P14 and 16, and the difference is, okay, he might have some sort of car issue. He's not looked too great so far in this race weekend, but remember, I've got that diffuser damage that I've got for the rest of this race now because of what's happened with Tsunoda. And speaking of Tsunoda, well, he's out. He's out. So Tsunoda, poor bloke. I was really feeling for him with the double DNF with the engine failures, but in terms of that DNF, that was just over-aggression from maybe both of us, but just unlucky for him to have the full DNF, and we've come away with it with just a puncher. Like, if you really look at it in hindsight, as we overtake Vesti on the safety car restart, that could have easily been us out of the race. We actually got lucky to only come away with a puncher, and now we're trying to come through in this race on the hard compound. Piastri's on softs again, like at the start of the race. Load of people on mediums. Does that mean everyone's pitting again? Because I think a lot of these guys would have gone medium to medium, because most of them had not made a pit stop yet. As you can see, though, the struggles of my car. Not only is the hard compound at this stage not the best race tire, because it's, the hardest compound versus a soft. Obviously, the rear diffuser is still causing us issues. It's hard to tell, just in these little moments you can see the rear end going. Apart from that, I am doing, if I do say so myself, quite okay to somewhat navigate the circuit all right. But just those little flashing moments where I'm trying to push the limit of the car and the rear end just steps out, where having a real hard fight with Piastri. We did actually a great overtake there from right to left to get him, but that diffuser issue is going to come back to bite us immediately as I just lose the back end. That is simply because of the damage. Nothing more than that. So Piastri overtakes us. We've got a long afternoon ahead of us. Lap 14, we're halfway through this Grand Prix and so much has happened. Piastri's in, though, because he's on the softs, and that's the only saving grace here. I reckon everyone ahead of us on mediums, I think they're going to come in again. They're surely got to come in again, because I think they all started on mediums, so they all have to do a second stop, mandatory, to change that compound. So although our pace didn't look insane trying to overtake Piastri, I think we can take some comfort that maybe many free positions are about to come our way. But in the meanwhile, I am trying to make legit overtakes on track as we make a double pass on Leclerc and Ricciardo. We were just going for the move on the Ferrari, to be honest, but Leclerc was actually hell-bent on overtaking Ricciardo, so I was kind of forced into a double move because otherwise we'd have just been pinched in. So we've made the double pass work. P10, we're back in the points. And we're going to gain more positions because others will be coming in. We're going to overtake Stroll on lap 17. We're already up to P9 because someone else has already come in for their second stop. Verstappen, Albon, all on mediums, as Verstappen actually is he going for the overtake or getting overtaken by Albon? I think he went for the overtake and couldn't quite make it, but Verstappen is going to come in. A load of people in the pits, you can see on the mini-map on the bottom left, and so we're going to continue on up into second place it will be, and eventually Albon will surely pit off mediums. Perez, surprisingly, he's actually on hard, so Perez will maintain the lead of this race then in P1. 6 seconds back is myself in second place. And we're going to the end. Perez is going to the end. So we're into second. So somehow the disaster of the puncher has actually turned up. Our decision to go on hards, it was a pretty arbitrary decision. I just thought, okay, surely everyone's going hards. Very wrong. Everyone wasn't going on hards. I thought it was a given, but no, they all went on medium. So that decision, that simple decision, has got me track position for a podium. Hamilton, meanwhile, has made another pit stop along with everyone else, and he's still down the order in P13. So this could still end up being a massive result for us, but the thing is, we've got that damage. Everyone else now on fresher hard tyres. So eventually they will start to catch us, and catch us they will. Lap 23. Now in comparison to Perez, who's obviously on the same strategy as me, same age of hard tyres, not too bad. I've lost about maybe 1.5 to 2 seconds. That's probably all due to the diffuser damage. But behind, as you can see, Ocon and Hulkenberg swapping position. They are now only 3.5 seconds behind me. That is the difference of the fresher hards compared to mine and Perez's hards, but then obviously I've got the added caveat of the damage. So by lap 25, Hulkenberg is on the back of me, so it's not over yet. Second place is not guaranteed as there's a spin behind. Did you see that? Mercedes of Russell spinning. I've only just noticed that now in the comm box as Hulkenberg goes for the move with DRS. We're a bit of a sitting duck with the lack of DRS. It's so powerful in this game, let alone around COTA where it's such a long back straight. I'm trying my best to come back at Hulkenberg, trying to relive what we did in the sprint race, but now with the tyre wear, with the damage, Hulkenberg is so committed and he's just all over us. And so although we do get ahead of him, you've got to remember we've still got, what, 3 whole racing laps ahead of us, and Hulk is now not the only car there. Ocon, Sainz as well. The rear end is crying out for grip. Hulkenberg's down the inside and he's now got us wide. Hulkenberg goes straight on just for a little bit, catches me by surprise, and he's pushed us wide. We're down to 5th place now. We're trying to desperately get back ahead of the Ferrari. I mean, in hindsight, maybe these positions would have been got anyway, looking at the pace of these cars, but oh, Hulkenberg just didn't do us a favour there with that aggressive move on the inside. We've lost 3 positions. I'm trying my best here. This was an open goal, and at one point we could have gained 18 whole points on Hamilton, but with the tyre wear, with the diffuser damage, because of Hamilton's teammates, so in a funny way, Tsunoda has actually still helped his teammate out, even though he's not in this race anymore, by giving me that damage, because Piastri now overtakes us. We are just narrowly keeping this car going in a straight line. We're down to P6. It feels awful because at one point we were in 2nd place, and on the last lap I'm going to be desperate and try and overtake Piastri. It's a drift into the left-hander, but Piastri has us covered. And simply put, the damage was too much. It just, that and finally the tyre wear kicking in. You know, the only solace was at the start of the stint, the grippy tyres were negating the damage. But now the tyres are so worn that it's really showing how bad the damage is to the rear end. So we're going to simply skate home for 6th place and the fastest lap. It could have been 18 points gained on Lewis Hamilton. Instead, what is it going to be? 8 points, 9 points with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. I mean, that's still a lot. That's a lot of points. 9 points is more points gained than you would have got for finishing 1st and Hamilton in 2nd, which is what happened last race in Singapore. So maybe that's not too bad still.
Sergio Perez has absolutely smashed the opposition it's victory for Perez.
It's one thing to put fast laps together, but to make these moves stick without losing too much time, that's real racecraft.
It's a very surprising win for Sergio Perez, a good one to be fair. He made the right decision going on hards, and he could manage it because he didn't have a broken car. I did, so he fell down to P6, but it's still actually a pretty good points haul if you look at the championship standings now. Going into the final race weekend, the sprint and the full Grand Prix at Brazil, we're now only somehow 3 points behind Lewis Hamilton because of his implosion this episode in the sprint and the full Grand Prix. Insanity. We called for a miracle at the end of last episode. We somewhat got one, you know, even though it was such a messy Grand Prix for us, a puncture, damage to the diffuser, we still somehow pulled something off to give us a chance in the final episode of this season. Guys, if you have enjoyed this one, then be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.